So I'm heading up the road to Lynchburg, Virginia. We're going to do the Storming of Thunder Ridge tomorrow. The Storming of Thunder Ridge is a big road event, but this year, for the first time, they're offering a gravel option that you can take some of the old logging roads up to the Thunder Ridge Wilderness, which is the highest point on the Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia. And so I brought my drop bar hardtail. It's on the roof rack. It's supposed to be pretty hot tomorrow, but we're going to make it work. So let's go.
So I just got back from Thunder Ridge. There was some issues with the temperature that I think caused some problems for a lot of people. But I just want to talk about sort of my experiences with it, and then maybe how could they improve some parts of the gravel version, because this is the first time that they're doing the gravel version. So unlike the road routes, the gravel route actually starts at a different place, which is a little awkward because the post-event celebration is at the road route place. So when you're done, you're kind of left hanging. So if we look at the route, it's 77 miles and there's approximately 8,000 feet of climbing. There's 3 main climbs before you sort of get done with all of that, and then you just kind of go through some rollers. The first main climb is straight out the gate, and it's a gravel road that takes you up to the parkway. It's worth noting right off the bat that Thunder Ridge is not a race. They explicitly say that's not a race. There's no podiums, there's no medals or anything like that. However, anytime you have more than one person on a bicycle riding together, it's always a race. This first climb is called the Goff Mountain Road Climb, and it's sort of a kick in the teeth if you're not ready for it, because it is literally like 10 minutes into the ride. It's supposed to average about 5.3% for 3 miles or so. However, there's a downhill in there, and so the actual grade is probably like 7%. And then there's some kickers in there that are over 10%. So at this point in the morning, it's still pretty cool out. It's kind of humid, but it's doable. The gravel route did not have a mass start. It was a suggested start time. And so if you were able to get your packet and get going earlier, you could try to beat the weather. However, in the end, the weather beat us. After the first climb, you end up on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and you keep climbing until you get to Petite's Gap, which is only 9 miles into the gravel route, but it's where your first aid station is. I felt like that was a little premature, but you're sharing these aid stations with the road riders who are probably 30 or 40 miles into their ride by now. So I didn't need anything, so I just kind of went straight past it. After you go past the first aid station, you go bombing down this gravel descent, which was really fun. Didn't get it on camera just because I was filming all this with my phone and I wasn't about to do that one-handed. Maybe next time I can bring an action camera with me. But that gravel descent is going to take you to the main climb of the day, which is the Parker's Gap Road segment. So the main climb of the day is the Parker's Gap Road climb, which is about a mile of paved road, and then it leads into about 10 miles of gravel that goes straight up to the top of the Blue Ridge Parkway to the top of Thunder Ridge, which is where the second aid station is. Paved road climb included, this is about an hour and a half of climbing straight up, and I was by myself for almost all of it until I got near the top, and I ended up catching up to this awesome couple on a tandem bike. Shout out to Jeff and Evelyn, and it was great talking with them, and then we all kind of got to the top where there was an aid station waiting for us. Just like the very first aid station, which I didn't get on camera, this aid station was really well stocked, and they had Tailwind nutrition in the water jugs and everything. The only problem was that I went to go get an Uncrustable, and I tried to bite it, and it was still frozen solid, so that was kind of disappointing. But I'm always grateful for the volunteers and the paramedics and everyone that are willing to stand out there on such a hot day. So at this point, we've all earned a downhill. So you go down the Blue Ridge Parkway, you get to the peaks of Otter, and then you take this twisty gravel descent, which was super sketch. It was loose over hard. I didn't have any real issue with it because I have like a mountain bike basically, but I could definitely see somebody on skinny tires like absolutely not loving their life. But it puts you at the bottom of the mountain, and that's where the temperature really started to kick up. At this point, it's almost like 11:30 or so, and the heat index is over 90 degrees. And you're in the full sun, there's no wind, there's no cloud cover. And this is where things started to get a little more upsetting for me because I am not heat tolerant very much. I sort of have Michigan blood and I really like riding in the cold. I'm not really heat acclimated yet. I don't think anybody really is. And so I started to see some issues where I was just kind of losing the power in my legs, and I was starting to think about like my stomach was getting a little upset with things. And for me, it was becoming less of a good time. So I knew that there was a third aid station coming up at mile 48. I was really hoping to get some solid food, maybe a thawed Uncrustable. And when I got there, I almost rode right by it because, in comparison to the other aid stations, there was almost nothing there. It was just two water coolers on a picnic bench in front of a store, and there was no signage or anything that I saw. The only reason I saw it was because I saw another rider leaving from that spot. Otherwise, if he hadn't been there, I would have ridden straight by it and not even known. After you leave the third aid station, you go on to the third gravel climb of the day, which is not all that bad. But at that point, I was just starting to think about that there's about 25 more miles, and that's like about 2 hours, and it's only getting hotter. And at that point, I kind of had the resolve just to say, let's just go down the gravel descent, and based on the route, it's very easy to get back to the car. So the nature of the route has you drop onto the main road only a couple miles from your car. And I just turned left and went back to the car. And looking at other people's rides and knowing other people that did it, that's also what they did. If you were brave or braver than me, you went and did this little gravel lollipop sort of like southeast of where we were. And then you kind of cut back along some roads back to the parking lot instead, which would have been like another hour and a half or so, and I just didn't think that was worthwhile. And as far as the route goes, it just felt like kind of not very sexy. Like you've already done the main climb and everything, and that just felt like filler. So to me, it wasn't really worth it. So by the end of it, I got about 60 miles and close to 7,000 feet of climbing. I was really happy with all of my own efforts. I really just wanted to tempo up all the climbs, and I managed to stay in zone 3 for all of it. I don't have a power meter on my bike, so I was just using sort of RPE and heart rate. As a bigger person, I'm like 6'3" and 190 pounds. I climb like a brick. It was really nice for me to see on the segment leaderboards for the day that I was in the top 5 for all of the gravel climbs. That was very validating to me. I came out of it pretty happy with how things went, other than having to cut the ride short. I definitely wasn't the only person that just took the main road back to the parking lot. You know, you can't control the weather, but I think that third aid station was a big factor in that. And so that's where I kind of want to talk about the room for improvement. I don't think it can be said enough how much hard work and goes into organizing these events. And I know Jeremy and them probably put months and months and months of time into these things. Just being the first time it's ever been done, I feel like it was a little rough around the edges. And there were some things that I think could be just polished to make it a much better experience next year going forward. The starting area for the gravel riders felt pretty underwhelming, especially when you know that the road riders have the post ride celebration. If you wanted to partake in that, you would have to finish this 6 or 7 hour gravel ride and then go drive like 35 minutes to Lynchburg to go get a piece of pizza and a beer. And that just felt like a little disappointing, really. I wish they would have done something, but when I got back to my car, there was nobody at the starting area from the race. There was no water coolers or anything. And it felt like we were kind of just neglected. I think I've already waxed poetic about the third aid station, but I feel like they weren't spaced out super well just for the gravel route, and they just seemed kind of inconsistent in regards to what they offered. I did really enjoy the route as far as what I did with it. I felt like the Parker's Gap road climb was very gratifying because it was such a long effort. And by the time you get to the top, you know, you have that aid station right there as you come off of the gravel. And that felt like a real sense of accomplishment just to get up there, which I think is what Thunder Ridge is all about. It's just that huge sense of accomplishment in doing the big climb, like the big one, you know? And so as far as the route goes, like I can't try and explain how to change it because I don't live out there. I do wish there was some sort of compromise on the distance where the sort of filler at the end was made a little bit more fun, or there was some way to rework it where that was toward the beginning of the ride. And then you'd get kind of a nice warm up in order to go do the Goff Mountain climb and not have that staring at you in the face like 5 minutes into the start of the ride. So overall, Thunder Ridge was a pretty fun experience. Nobody can expect the weather to do good or bad for them. And so you just have to make the best of what you get. And I felt like I had a pretty good outcome based on the decisions that I made for myself. I would love to do the gravel event again. I would love to talk to anybody about some changes to it or anything. And if you were there, please just give me some feedback as to how you felt. And otherwise, thank you for watching.